with the gospel of Jesus Christ. We can always give people a more comfortable trip to hell if we don't begin with the gospel, because this life is temporal. But too often we tend to forget the social dimension. As Christians, we often tend to focus entirely on the spiritual dimension, especially in the sense of the Reformation. We are so focused on getting people to heaven that we forget that we have physical bodies too. And so what I hope to give you today is not just some of what we're doing. I'm going to give you some great examples and stories, but I hope to give you some tools that you can take into your sphere of influence, and you can bring transformation and justice wherever God has placed you. Okay, and I'm actually going to try to speed up because a lot of you heard my story, right? How many haven't heard my story? Uh-oh, lots of you haven't. Okay. Get rid of that. Can you read this? There we go. Thank you. In May of last year, just to give you an example of what's going on in Northern India and Nepal, there was children in a very remote village in a district of Nepal called Jumla. And here's how trafficking happens. Here's the source, one of the sources of it: poverty and no access to proper education for the children. And so this is a remote village in Nepal, and the parents longed to send their children to a good school. But they could not afford. There was one good school in the town, but they could not afford to send their children to the school. And so the trafficker knew this. He came along and posed as someone operating a school. Now, but it was going to be a school in India. And so he came to these very impoverished parents who loved their children very much and wanted the best for their children. Too often we think that trafficking happens because the children are unwanted. That also is true. But in this case, the parents loved their children, but they were desperate for an opportunity. The trafficker said, I won't take your children to a good school. Just pay me this small, they even paid him, because they expect to pay something for the school. So the trafficker actually gets money from the parents to traffic their children into India, where they then realize, oh my gosh, our children are gone, we've lost touch with them, what's going on? We've just been duped. And they're desperate. And they cried out to our TellAsia Ministries national coordinator of Nepal. And now this guy, our coordinator, is nothing to mess with. He's a former gang leader, freedom fighter, okay, a rebel fighter, okay, not afraid of nothing. So this guy, he gets in a Jeep 3.5 days through the mountains of Nepal and Northern India, the Himalayas, finds this guy, and all he had with him was one government officer and a letter from the Nepal government, basically what's he saying, let our kids go, okay? And he walks in there and starts banging on the door. Well, first this guy didn't allow him in. Now, he could have met him with all guns blazing. He risked his life, our coordinator risked his life to do this. Now, it turns out this trafficker had been busted 3 years earlier for the same thing, bribed his way out of jail, he's back at it. So he had a little bit of fear. I think what we managed to convince him was that if you just turn over the kids, you're going to be okay. He released all 33 of those kids to us, and we led them out and took them to safety, brought them back to their parents. And now we are sponsoring those children to go to the one good school in the area so that they are not going to be trafficked again. I got to go and visit there. We rode the motorbike 2 days on the motorbike up the mountain to get to this village. But the saddest thing was that our kids that we're supporting are in the school, and they're healthy and they're happy and they're getting an education, but hanging over the fence was all the kids that couldn't afford to go to that school, longing to be inside that fence, being a part of that wonderful opportunity. And so to end trafficking is going to require a multifaceted approach. Is Sharon still here, or is she? You are doing a wonderful thing. Get up here. Come here. I really appreciate what I find very few people that are actually have understood that one of the main keys to ending trafficking is prevention. And she's doing something on the prevention to get to the kids before they're trafficked. We gotta talk, okay? Yeah. Let me just go to my PowerPoint really quickly, and I was going to talk about persecution a little bit too, because that's a justice issue. Does anybody want to hear about persecution?
Yeah.
Okay. So I was a horse trainer. For those who haven't heard my testimony, I was a horse trainer in college. I thought I was going to go to the Olympics with my horses, and God spoke very dramatically to me to give everything up to bring God's love and hope to the children and the people of Northern India, Nepal, and other nations. But He showed me to start in this Ganges River area of Northern India. Go to the next one. So I gave up that my dad had built me this grand horse training facility for my future. I was all set up. I was the 6th state regional champion with my horse in Minnesota, Wisconsin area. But then I gave it all up and went to Northern India in 1996. And the Lord had shown me a dream of the demons ruling over the whole South Asia from the Ganges River area and the Himalaya Mountains. And I saw these demons holding reins in their hands and whips like they were chariot drivers. And then they were just ruling. And I saw these chains went down into the whole land of India, Nepal, and beyond, and all into Bangladesh and Pakistan and Thailand and all the South Asia area. And at the end of the chains were people enslaved to idol worship, children enslaved to sex trafficking, children enslaved to poverty. And that was, let's roll a little bit of that video. We just have a picture of some of the poverty situation in Northern India that we deal with. And so there's just, it's called the poisonous hub of sex trafficking in Asia, and this is why. This is just one of the villages, one of the more poor villages where we are feeding the children, we're providing them a meal every day, a hot meal, which they would otherwise go almost entirely hungry. But this is a typical situation. They're living in the dirt. You can see this child's, the mother's actually put mud in this child's hair. I'm not quite sure why. There's another child in this video, several of them, that the hair of an Indian is black, but the hair is brown because of the malnutrition. And so this is the situation where they would literally have nothing if we weren't out there feeding them. And if we kept on watching this video, you would see where we're actually educating these children, and there's no school for them in these regions. And so we're providing them basic education and a meal every day. We feed about 500 kids this way, that we are taking care of them and making sure they have a good a bright future in that way. We educate about 5,000 kids that we can't afford to feed them, but we are at least giving them an education. Okay, so that's just the picture. Why is this one of the poisonous hub of sex trafficking in Asia? Is what they call this region of Northern India, or even the whole nation of India is considered that. Now, I think the open sex trafficking, what we see in Thailand, I think there's a gathering together of it there where you just see a lot of it out on the streets. But a lot of the source of that is going to be from Northern India and Nepal, where we have kids being just trafficked in from here. The kids that we rescued were on their way to places like Thailand and the Middle East. 35% of global human trafficking, 45% of global slavery, that is largely bonded labor because of poverty. Is again, those people you just saw in the video is a picture of bonded labor. Those parents are slaves, and that's why they're so poor. We're dealing with this in the north, about 300 million population. And we've just got it up from 0.1. Now we're up to about 2% Christian in Northern India. Yeah, praise God. So we have been busting brothels. That's how we trafficking. You can go ahead to, what's our next? Here's some of the kids we rescued, not out of brothels. These are some we got before they were trafficked. And when Mark talks about visiting some of our children, this is our children's home, kids in our children's home. Look at the way, go back to that slide a minute. Look at them. This was the day they arrived compared to about a year and a half later. And the transformation. Now, this is the age that they're often trafficked, is just around the age of 6. But a lot of the kids that when we finally got to them in the brothels, they were 12 to 18 years old by that time. The problem with them getting into the brothels is once they are in that lifestyle, as Sharon shared a little bit, it's very hard to get them out of that lifestyle. Okay, go to the next one. These are actual footage from when back in 2012, when we started getting inside the brothels, undercover, finding ways to identify the girls that wanted out, and then getting the police involved, and then we would plan a raid, and we would shut down that brothel. Now, I'm not as good at prayer as Sharon is, okay? We all got our gifts. Now, it all starts with prayer, okay? It all starts with prayer. And again, I also want to honor what Papa Mark and Mama Ann are doing in Kenya. They've got amazing rescuing kids out of brothels there, too. And they're probably better, I know Ann's better at prayer than I am. But we all start with prayer walking. We all start with but then sometimes the Lord will guide us into other avenues. And the way the Lord guided us was to connect with the government and the police force. And we're not gonna play around here. Let's kick some butt, you know. And I don't believe in this stuff of buying them out here. Okay, we gotta bust the bad guys and get them thrown in the slammer. Okay. And so we get them busted, and meanwhile, the police will do the busting the brothel. We get the girls, always have to take them to the police station first, and they have to actually be in custody for a while the paperwork is done, and then eventually we get them to our safe home. And so we were doing that. We've founded 2 safe homes. Now our focus is, let's go on with some more pictures. This is just actual footage of us seeing inside and actually capturing. This is a brothel area deserted because they figured out we were coming. Okay? So the police of a city the size of Los Angeles. Now these are the guys that normally oppose Christians and persecute us. They honored our team for helping them solve the problem of the city in the whole trafficking area. Now we've got the police doing their job. They're rescuing girls, they're busting brothels, they're getting girls into the various safe homes that are there in the city. And so we've catalyzed the solution, or one part of the solution, and now it's running on its own. Okay, that's where you really want to get that. Those who are supposed to do their job, let's get them doing their job and work ourselves out of that job, right? So then we said, okay, what still needs to be done? Okay, well, what needs to be done is prevention. Let's cut it off at the root. And so we're going into the villages, and I want to appreciate Wesley Campbell now and his organization, Be a Hero, because they are standing behind us financially, enabling us to go into the villages. We have got a drama team of 5 trained performers, and they're going out and they are going and teaching villages, whole villages at a time, are learning how to keep their kids safe. They're learning what to watch out for so that trafficker can't come along and dupe them into sending their kids to them. This is just one example of the performance. I only have that one picture of the village learning how to stay safe. This is an example of rural education. This is back up to that first stand. This is how the kids look when we first start in the village. We come to a village that's really poor. We see they're really high risk, and we say, okay, we need to start an education center and, if possible, feeding center here. Then about 3 months later, the same kids. So now they're clean. clean, so we teach health and hygiene. Now they're clean. We teach the parents how to give them better nutritious food. They're better fed, and the value of education, and especially how to keep safe from traffickers. Okay. Big vision is to end child slavery and child trafficking in Northern India and Nepal. That's a big vision. The way we're going to be planning to do that, I want you to pray for a movement called Bright Hope Initiative. So this is an initiative. We're in partnership with Wesley and Stacy for this, as far as they're working on raising the funds for it. We're going to be busting brothels and registering girls. But we're also going to be doing the awareness programs at the village level and at the urban level. Completely different. Two completely different things you got to do. Okay? Awareness at the urban level, we're going to be getting the governor of the city involved. We're going to be getting the police force involved. We're going to be getting as many other NGOs and organizations that have any concern. It's completely non-Christian in the sense it's a secular humanitarian project. But guess what they end up seeing? They see that Jesus is in our heart and is the one motivating us to do all these things. Amen? Okay. And then there's other elements of that.
What was the name of that?
Bright Hope Initiative.